How I joined the church.
So I'm gonna try to make this video. Hopefully it'll work, but we'll see. Because it probably has some background noise, loud background noise. So hopefully it's not too bad, but we'll see. So anyway, this video is about how I came to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. How I came to the decision to get baptized into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which includes having a testimony of the Book of Mormon and of Joseph Smith and of the restoration of the gospel. I started out like I had just gotten back into.
Let me tell you my testimony because I just feel like it. And it's my video. It's my reaction video here. I was a hardcore Christian ever since I found out Christ claiming to be God and no one else, which is like, it wasn't really revealed to me right away. Because I was raised that we're all children of God and we're all superheroes, and Jesus was he's just another superhero. But then it was like, oh no, he's the best one. I was like, whoa, 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 and then okay, and then it's like, yeah, whoa, 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 whoa. But I had a testimony of God way before Jesus. It was growing up, baby. But anyways, baby. I used to be a baby. My dad idolized me because, well, it's there are Latter-day Saints who don't even know that women can break your heart because they were grafted into a righteous woman. But most people do experience heartbreaks and stuff, and that's just different. Those are the people that I've done this big survey. I want to say I've done 20. I've asked it 20 times. Who do you love more, your wife or your children? The righteous overwhelmingly pick their wife. Or they say the same, they back out of the question, which is very popular too. For some people, the wicked overwhelmingly pick their children, or they'll back out of the question. But I've never seen someone that I consider to be wicked, and then he's, oh, my wife. Never. And I've never talked to someone that I consider to be very righteous or more righteous than myself or closer to the Lord than me, and then immediately, oh, my kids. Never. It's always righteous wife, wicked children, or a soft, oh, this is uncomfortable, that thing. Don't ask me this. Right? Well, something's setting in right now. Uh-oh. Oh my gosh. No. What? Wow. I don't know if this is good or bad. That's probably a little bit of both. Justin? Um, I don't want to say this. Justin. No one's gonna see this, right? Um, I love my dad so much. And he loves me so much. I just, I'm just realizing, and I hope it's the latter. Wow. Weird. Wow, this is really weird, huh? This is very uncomfortable. I, my dad is either wicked or he's an exception to the rule. And I hope it's the second one. My dad, he got burned on his first marriage, and I didn't know he was married until I was 16. I didn't know he had a first wife. There's so much about my dad I don't know from his past. And it's don't ask, don't tell, I guess. I know he worked at a steel shop. My mom was like, you didn't know that? I was like, no. What? No. And then I'm thinking, I told my dad, I said, Philip, my friend Philip's thinking about marrying a girl who already has a kid with somebody else. Can you believe that? And my dad's like, yeah, that's what I did with your mom. Where do you think Heather was? Heather's your half-sister. I was like, oh my gosh. Whoops. It was like kind of embarrassing. Whoops. I was like, whoa. Because it's like, I would never do that. But it makes more sense that it's his second wife. Because once your first wife breaks your heart, it's like your standards, it's not even that they go down, although they might go way down, but they might go up, but they might just change. It just changes things. It's like when you go into marriage the first time, it's like, there's no way she's ever going to leave me or break my heart or break the vows or anything like that. It's never going to happen. The second time, it's like, okay, if it happened with her, it could happen with her too. So I think he just targeted, and people think I'm joking when I say this. For the second wife, I think my dad just found the most beautiful girl he could and married her. He's like, well, if she's going to be inconsistent, at least get the most beautiful one. That's what he did. She was so beautiful. I didn't even realize how beautiful she was because she was my mom and she did cigarettes. But I saw a picture of her in the past. Wow. I don't really like brunettes, but she's a beautiful brunette. But I don't like brunettes as much, I should say. I do like brunettes, but I like brunettes more than redheads, right? I have a friend who loves ginger, the redhead ones. I was like, okay, it's weird, it's interesting, but it's like, anyways, there's a chance my dad's wicked, and I never even, it's like, what? It's like, my dad's just so awesome. How could he be in the wicked bucket? Although he might lean towards, I'm not going to answer it. But he doesn't have a wife right now, but he's always loved us more than his third wife, second wife, and first wife. We didn't exist. But he told me the best day of his life was me being born And I think there's God chemicals there, so that's okay. You're really bonding with God too, right? But I don't want. I don't want to speak preemptive. If I ever have a child, I'll be able to speak on it. Like that's the thing. I'm a virgin, so I've never had sex, so I don't really know what that's like. I do talk about it a lot because I've explored it intellectually through other people and mostly other people's mistakes. Because pretty much everyone regrets their sex life at some point. Some people don't, but most people do. But like, and pretty much everyone, even close to righteous that I've ever talked to, is like, if you could snap your hands and be a virgin right now, would you do it? They all say yes. I've never met someone who was like, no, I would hold on to all those bodies. Now they might not think it's worth it, but they said if it's a free snap, I would do it. But it's like, so I'm snapping and getting rid of it now. But you get to, but you know, it's a have a cake and eat it too, right? But for me, I have the cake, but I didn't eat it, and so I was like, I have this cake, but I don't really know what's on the other side. And I talked to this guy at the casino, and I guess extroverts, it doesn't really affect them that as much. So it is more of a activity, something. It's like, I don't know. I feel like if you're the type of person who's like obsessed with power, and you have all these other idols that are really big, the sex one doesn't come in. But I feel like if you're introverted, you can like fall in love and get your heart broken, or the sex can be so powerful it becomes that idol. And I feel like fornication. I feel like fornication is more dangerous, is obviously more dangerous as a gold medal than a bronze medal. Because some people, if they're addicted to drugs and stuff, then the devil's like, oh, I won't even worry about the lust. It's like, the lust is just something that people throw onto it. But I guess the idea is like, for me, I'm very idol sensitive. I played Guitar Hero, became the best in the world, pretty much. I actually beat the best in the world all those years later, but I got the game late, okay? And I got really good still. Everyone else got the game before me. But bowling was an idol. And you just look, it's called Avon in the Hebrew. It's the entanglement. But this is brutal because this is a brutal one. It's like, well, of course your dad loves you more than the wife. He doesn't have a wife. It's like, well, yeah, that's kind of a problem too, right? I actually have some very judgmental posts on divorce on my Facebook, and my dad is my number one fan on Facebook. He doesn't have very many friends. He made a new account and doesn't have very many friends, so he sees all my posts pretty much, and he goes, and just one day he was pissed and he was like yelling at me for like no reason. And I was like, why is he like yelling at me? And then I was like, oh crap, I posted something on divorce. And he probably read that. And I have a sticky note of Malachi 2:16, which says, thus saith the Lord God of Israel, I hate divorce. And he's like, is that up here because of me? And I was like, no, Dad. I was like, what? And I always think like, I text my dad. I said, listen, I don't know I don't really know what happened with your first wife. I don't. But there's something called, every divorce has one unrighteous person, but not every divorce has two unrighteous people. And a righteous divorce can happen. And it does happen, I would say more than half the time. But sometimes there's two people that are wicked, but like, like if it's, like, if you ask both of them whose fault was it, and they both blame the other person, that's sometimes a red flag. If they both pick the same person, I just write it off as a righteous divorce for the person that it wasn't even their fault. I don't even look into it further if they both agree on whose fault it was. Like, even my mom, who, it's not something that she wanted to take responsibility for, but she was like, She's like, well, it wasn't all my fault. I was like, yes, it was. But she didn't say it like, oh, it was 51% his fault or more. She didn't say that. She was like, it was 51. It was, less. Well, of course, it's less than 100% your fault. You know how rare that would be that it's 100%. I mean, so maybe, but yeah, I guess sometimes it is 100%. But Mom, it's really bad. But all you have to say now that you're a believer and you love Christ, oh, that was my old life. That's something I've never been able to say. Oh, that was my old life. I said that one time because I was quoting, like, it was so funny when I said it to my dad. My dad was like, what the heck are you talking about? My old life. And I was like, yeah, I don't really know. I was quoting a pastor who it actually was his old life. Because some people go from out of the pool into the deep end. I basically started in the deep end. So there's no, like LDS, a lot of people have this. Converts are very different people. Most Latter-day Saints, they have so many babies that the 19 million members that we have, it's 17 million. It's going to be 19 million though. But the 17 million that it has, it's mostly just Brigham Young's babies. Mostly. Just tons of Brigham Young babies. And Joseph Smith babies. It's just babies everywhere. Babies born. So you're born into it. And there's a convert here and there. But the gaslighting haze, you kind of have to... You have to solve a Rubik's Cube to even get into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I was lucky that I had the gift of faith and that my stepmom was gone. If my dad didn't divorce, I wouldn't be LDS. There's no way. Because I wouldn't have met the missionaries. It doesn't even make sense. My stepmom left. And my dad was like, oh, I just realized how much more freedom I have in this house. And there's like things I can actually do. Because she was the man of the house. I heard a comedian say that. But that's what we had. She had the pants 99% of the decisions. And she was surprised when my dad was like, oh, no, we're not doing that. And she's like, oh, really? Okay. I said, oh. But my dad was like, but also my mom was so good. Like her choices were so good that my dad was just like, you got this. And my dad, not only did my dad let her do all the finances, but he was like, thank you. And do it. Because it's like, she's never going to make a bad purchase. She's not even going to overpay for toilet paper. So it's like, of course you can have all my money. I just want $300 a month. So that's what my dad did. But it's just so weird to say that all the wicked, it's just interesting that all the wicked love their children more than their wife. All of them. And then my dad, plus my dad. So my dad's the one righteous guy? Yes, it just feels weird saying that, but maybe it's because I'm awesome. Too. But, it's also a small sample. I think I would need 100 at least. 20 surveys, pretty small. And if you force everyone to pick, you're going to get righteous people taking their kids. Plus, you could do like a 2, 3, 4-on-1 argument. Like, I love my wife more than any one individual child, but once it's 5, 6, 7 on one, like Julia asked me a super awesome question. Would you rather the Lord bless you with 5 righteous 20-year-olds in America today and unlimited resources, and the LDS Church is okay with polygamy now? So it's righteous polygamy, 5 righteous return missionaries who are like ready to learn and make a bunch of babies, and you have unlimited resources. Or you could take a very righteous 72-year-old and now you're learning and you have unlimited resources. So the Lord's blessing you with one super wife who's not going to live very long, but you're sealed. And she can prepare you. I guess she could prepare you to find a bride after her. She's going to make you way better. Whereas the 5 wives, you make them better. And the Lord blessing you with the five children to raise, because that's what a 20-year-old is, a child. 20-year-old is a child. But it was like, I was in this weird mood where I was like, oh, I was like, oh, I think 520s. I'll take the 520s. Like, and I'm thinking, a million years from now, it'll be a better decision. 5 ceilings, 5 infinite wives, 35 to 40 to 50 children. And I can like really flood the earth, because 72-year-old, they don't make babies anymore. So it was like, I do want a 72-year-old gift of a wife. I absolutely. And I will tremble before that one wife. The 20-year-olds, I feel like they're amazing for a few weeks, and then they're just like, okay, they're really stupid. And they don't want to learn that much. And they're just loud and they don't want to cuddle very long. But you have 5. You have a 5, like, it's going to be hard to cuddle all 5, like 10 minutes each for 50 minutes. Whereas the 72-year-old, it's the easiest 8 to 10 to 12 hour cuddle ever. The 20-year-old is like, okay, can I, go shopping now or something? I was like, what? And they have like cameras in my face, social media and all this. And I'm thinking, well, so then I go to the other room, right? And I lay on a different couch after the phone call. And now all of a sudden I'm just like, oh my gosh. I was overwhelmed. Like I was exhausted spiritually and emotionally, exhausted at the thought of 5 sister wives that I said, oh my gosh, I want the 72-year-old now, because it's like I wanted to just go to sleep. You're never going to get to sleep. There is no sleeping anymore. That's the problem. I love righteous rest. And with 72, she sleeps more than me. So it's just more sleepy. There's more sleeping going on. And it's like, oh, but aren't the 20-year-olds more beautiful than the 72? Yes and no. If I had to pick, I'd say yes, but that's less than 1% of it. You have to think of, But without limited resources, it's not even close. You take the 72-year-old. But, because they're just going to spend all the money, and now I'm going to work 80 hours a week, and it's not going to be enough. And they're going to work too, because the economy, it's not like it used to be. 72-year-old, we're budgeting. We agree on the budget. That's another thing. There's disagreements. There's like, the sisters are going to, yeah, they're righteous, but they're going to disagree still. And they're going to like, and they're going to have all this power in the pants. The 72-year-old's like, wow, I can't believe I have this really pretty 34-year-old in my hands. And he loves me unironically. I've never seen this before. And she's so thankful and humble. The righteous 20-year-olds, they pretend like they're humble. They're not real. They're just like, I could do better. The Lord gave me to you, but I could do better. And they're going to like leverage that. I'm more beautiful than, it's like, I'm yelling at them, I'm beautiful. And then I said, I'm more beautiful. I was like, that's true. I never thought about it like that. The 72-year-old's like, oh, we both know who's more pretty. And I said, I think it's pretty close, darling. Women are more beautiful than men. But a 34-year-old like me, who's probably a 5.5 to a 9, depending on who you ask, probably closer to a 7. It's like, I can compete with a woman. I'm really beautiful. I'm so beautiful. It's just, there's more to it. The girls are like, he's beautiful, but he's weird, man. He's autistic. Quasi-autistic. Whatever that means. But Sister Poulter, she has this, she's cute, but she wouldn't be if she wasn't LDS. She would be like, gross. She'd be so gross. But because she's spirit-filled, I call it angelic ecstasy sometimes. Where she's just like, yes, yes. And you know the other reason why I got baptized? She asked me more than once. Because when I read the book of Acts, the verse that she showed me, whether it was Acts 2:38, Mark 16:16, John 3:3-5, she showed me all these verses. 1 Peter 3:21, I don't think she showed me, but that's another great verse. It's like, get baptized or else. And I was like, well, this doesn't really make any sense, because I thought the whole thing with Jesus was you believe in him and then you're a Christian. That's what everyone says. That's what everyone is doing. And you pray to him and you have a relation. You walk with him. But it was weird. I only read the Bible once at that point. New Testament. Didn't read very much of the Old Testament at all. But I kind of just skimmed through it. And when you read it the second time, the obedience verses pop out more. But the first time it's like, this is really interesting. It's, wow, it's a cool parable. Whoa, 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 whoa. My first NIV Bible, I was underlining the verses that I liked. And if you go to my old Bible, I don't know. I might have it here actually, but somewhere. I underline every verse. I underlined 95% of the verses because it was Matthew, and it was the second half of Matthew, and it was the first time I ever read it. So I was like, oh my gosh, every verse was blowing my mind. Where now, if I read it, I have the entire Bible to compare it to instantly. And I say, well, it's an amazing verse compared to every other book in the library, but not compared to every book in this book. Not compared to every verse in this book. This book has all the good ones. It's kind of like a bad proverb in the book of Proverbs. It's still better than the book of Wisdom, and it's better than like Mark Twain, and it's better than like everything else, but it's not that good compared to the other proverbs on like if you flip the page, the next chapter is better. Or like the other verses are better, but plus it has that. Plus when you read a Mark Twain quote, yes, it's popular, but it's like, I have to really think, do I even believe this? Whereas with Proverbs, you don't have to think at all. You're like, worst case scenario, it's God's fault. It's like, God messed up. Or Solomon messed up. I'll just blame Solomon. Why'd you believe that verse? Well, because it was in the Bible. Oh, that's actually fair. God's going to say, that's fair. But if God says, why'd you believe Mark Twain? It's like, because everyone else was believing it. And God's just like, looking at you like, what? And you're like, because everyone else was believing it. Because it was popular, Lord. It's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog. Now, do you believe that because it's Mark Twain, or do you believe that because David and Goliath? David and Goliath, mostly, I would say. There's a reason why we have weight classes, Eric. It is the size of the dog in the fight. Is it? Yes. Okay. It's not about what's said. It's about who is saying it. It's not about what's being said. It's about who is saying it. A quote is only as good as the person who says it. There's some truth to that. It's both, but it's... Well, truth is truth. Ever heard someone say that? A good idea is a good idea. There's some truth to that. But if somebody walks up and says, I'm the way, the truth, and life, no one goes to the Father except through me, I'm going to say, dude, go away from me. Oh, but it was Jesus who said it. Oh, never mind. Whoa. See how that changes it? Whoa. God really sucks sometimes. What about that statement? I'd be scrambling. Who said that? Who said that? Glenn Beck. Really? Yep. Romney lost. God really sucks sometimes. Interesting. Was he being sarcastic? Well, of course. How sarcastic? I don't know. I don't know either. But that's terrifying. It's kind of funny. It's mostly, well, I'd say more so terrifying than funny. God really sucks sometimes. We know God picks the leaders. So God just made a mistake there? Is that what it was? I would say... It was God's wrath on us. There's, it was so funny. I told my friend Philip, God picks the leaders. And he says, God picked Obama? As if that was the worst leader of all time in any country on earth ever. I was like, Hitler, Philip. Oh, Hitler, right. Huh. There's this preacher, I'm not even going to say his name because he's so bad. He's so good and so bad at the same time. He's like really bad. And really good. And he was spirit-filled. But I just disagree with him so much. Like, so much. But he was called to preach. That's what he said. He says, hey, I'm thinking about getting ministry, thinking about preaching, being pastor. And the guy says, okay, so go home and pray and do whatever you can to not do that. I said, okay. And he went in and he bubbled up, called to preach. He says, yeah, I did all that. I can't, I have to. I have to preach. I must. So he did. Very controversial view, but take it with a grain of whatever. Apparently, the Old Testament is like, obey my commandments and I'll protect you. Obey my commandments and I'll protect you. That's a great thing for God to say. I promise you, I'll protect you. It's kind of like, you tell your wife, don't leave the house, don't leave the castle. You won't be attacked. But they disobeyed really badly. And God, it's not that God was unable to protect him. It's like, really? I'm surprised I'm going to say this. There's a movie called Spider-Man. And they said if you could survive, it was like, if you could survive 10 minutes in the ring, you'll get $5,000 or something. 10,000. And he goes in there and he somehow beats him up. I forget how he beat him, but he tackled him and beat him in 4 minutes or something. But all he had to do was survive, but he just beat him up with the Spider-Man skills. And then he goes to collect the 10,000, and the guy gave him $1,600, or like $600 or something, 700, whatever it was in the movie, right? And he's like, "What is this? 10,000." He says, "Well, it said if you survive 10 minutes, you get 10,000, but it was like, you beat him in 4 minutes, so this is what you get, $700 or 4,000." Yeah, I don't know, whatever it was like. But he's like, "This is what you get," and he ripped him off. And he was like, "There you go." And he was pissed. He was like, "What the heck?" And then the guy looks at him and he says, "Well, I don't know what part of, I don't know, I don't know that's none of my problem," or something like that. That's not my problem. Not my problem. So he starts walking away. Some robber comes in with a gun. He's like, "Give me all your money." And he steals like 25,000. And the robber starts like sprinting to get to the elevator. And Spider-Man could easily stop this guy because he just beat up that guy, and he could at least trip him or push him or say, hey, stop stealing the money and all that. But he just lets him go into the elevator. He's like, yeah, I'm just going to let him go in. And as the villain is like smashing the elevator, he looks at Spider-Man and he says, hey, thanks. Like, you did that. You let me rob him and all this. I didn't see you. I just robbed him, but thanks for letting it go through, because you could easily beat me up and take all the money right now. And you just let me go by you. Thanks. And then, like, I don't know, the robber ended up running. Anyways, I'll talk about the robber in a second. So the guy who paid out Spider-Man, he says, bro, why didn't you stop him? You beat up that guy in the ring, but you can't stop this guy. And Spider-Man looks at him and he says, I just thought it was not my problem. And the guy is kind of just like, touche, I guess. Damn it, dude. And Spider-Man gets in the elevator and presses the button and goes down. And like 5 minutes later in the movie, the robber that took the $25,000 is like running through town, basically killing people or like pushing them, and he pushes someone, and that person who gets pushed gets hit by a car and ends up being Spider-Man's dad. And now Spider-Man's like, no, my dad's dead. Spider-Man didn't do anything wrong at any point. He beat the guy, should have got collected $10,000, didn't get the $10,000, got $700. Should have been pissed, should have sued, should have beat him up and took the money, didn't. Then walked away. Then the villain comes. Sure, he could beat him up. But all he did was let him go by. Drops an epic one-liner. But he didn't really do anything wrong. And that's the situation God's in with Hitler. Because you know what Hitler said you know what God said to the Jews when Hitler was doing all that nonsense? With the containment camps and the killing Jews and all that. God said, not my problem. It's not that hard to, like, obey some of the commandments. The commandments is to love other people. The commandments is to love me and to think about me and to not overindulge in the world. Just think about me one day a week and love each other throughout the week a little bit. And just stop ripping each other off and hating each other and committing adultery and all the other laws. And then the Jews are like, no, I am God, bro. And they're just like, I'll think about you once a year or whatever. And God says, well, I'm not going to give you protection. And then the Jews are like, we don't need protection. We have all this money and we have this stuff. And God's like, well, there's this little baby who's about to get a mustache going. And something, not mine. The Jews are like, oh, we're not following your commandments? Not my problem. And God's like, oh, baby Hitler, he's a teenager now. Not my problem either. This is the free will planet. And then God, just like Spider-Man, sees his dad dead. It's one thing to say, I promise I'll protect you if you keep my commandments. It's another thing to say, I promise that I won't protect you if you break my commandments. Those are two different things. And God, you could call it a mistake, you can call it an accident. He said both those things. And throughout Scripture, it's like, well, maybe positive reinforcement will help them keep the commandments. How about this? I mean, everyone believes in God, so how about this? I promise that if you break the commandments, you will go to hell. And God's like 100% sure this is going to work. It's kind of like when mom and dad, they're like, oh, if you get good grades, we can go see the movies and we can have ice cream and all that. And then you start getting bad grades. So, well, that's not working. How about this? If you guys get an F, if your GPA is so low that they're not going to graduate you to the next grade, I'm going to take away your TV. I'm going to take away your phone. I'm going to take away your laptop. I'm going to take away your privileges. I'm not going to let you do organized sports. You're going to be homeschooled or something like that. Or like you're going to start doing homework and you're never going to play sports ever again. It's a different motivation. One of them is motivated from ice cream and movies. Is that good? Yes. But the other one is I lose everything. Fueled by winning. If you get a 3.0 or higher, ice cream and movies. But the other one is a much more passionate, more powerful fuel, being fueled by losing. 1.0 and below, or two, let's say 1 point, whatever it is that fails you, 1.3, 1.0, 0.999 below. It's one thing to be fueled by a promotion. That's another thing to be fueled by being fired. A threat to be fired. If you do this, I'll give you a promotion. That's a good, okay. If you sell 100 TVs this year, you'll get a promotion. That's a small incentive. If you don't sell 100, you'll get fired. Whoa. Well, that's a bigger incentive. Michael Jordan was 6-0 in the finals, NBA finals. He was fueled by winning. But he's also one of the only players to go 1,100 games straight without losing. The only player. He's the only player to go 1,100 games without losing 4 in a row. Because once he lost 3 in a row, he's like, I never want to do that ever again. I never want to lose ever again. And God's thinking that this has got to work. I promised I would protect you if you kept the commandments, but that's not a very big incentive, is it? We're already protected. How about this? This will make them keep the commandments. How about this one? I promise. And I've already created them. Little Adolf is going to come out. I promise. Adolf Hitler will come out and he'll almost certainly, okay, definitely, he will definitely win the election. Legally. If you break my commandments. Just like any loving father, there's no way these kids are going to get an F at school if it's going to cost them their sports and their laptop, their TV, and their phone. There's no way. So the parents are like, this is really good, what we're doing here. But then the kid comes home with Fs anyway. Uh-oh. So like any good parent, they said, well, I know we said we were going to do that. But you can have your phone, your laptop, and the TV, and the sports anyway. Right? Wrong. No sports, no TV, no phone. Matthew 6:15. If ye do not forgive others, I will not forgive you. The preacher David, he went to Germany. He saw the containment camps. He says this is what disobedience looks like. Really. Wow. God really sucks sometimes.